you doing tonight? Welcome to the channel. Tonight I'm going to be going over Hawkeye episode 3 titled Echoes. So this episode I thought was better. It had some better moments for sure. But there's just some things that they're just laughable. Some of the stuff is it's comically bad. So let's get into this. This was a shorter episode. It was about 6 minutes long. So 36 minutes is not, the other ones were around like 40 some minutes. So, this episode begins, we see, so the woman at the end of the episode, the villain who was rubbing on the speakers, her name is Maya Lopez, and we get to see an origin story, I guess. It's very brief, but we see her as a kid, and she's a cute little girl. She's in a classroom. She's deaf. And, I thought the actress, or the young actress, the little girl, I thought she played her role well. I did feel bad for her. She had that look of, where she was obviously in distress, and she was, she can't hear, she's deaf. So I do feel bad. And we see her in a classroom, and then it kind of goes into that whole, she's really awesome. She's already awesome as a kid. And then, because in the classroom, we see her, she's doing better than what the teacher expected from her. Let's just leave it at that. And then we see her talking to her dad, and then her dad and her have, I think actually her dad, who's played by Zahn McClarnon, I've seen him in other shows. I've seen him in a show called Fargo, and there's another one that I'm forgetting. But I like him. He's a pretty good actor. But their relationship was really sweet and endearing. They're speaking in sign language, and they have a really cute scene, and it was all good. And then we get into her in karate class, and she doesn't have a leg. She's missing one leg. I don't know where it's, like how far it's up, like if it's at the knee or if it's at the thigh, I don't know. But so she's one-legged and she's deaf. And she takes out a kid twice her size, twice her weight, just simply by watching. So her dad tells her that she's going to have to get good at, she's going to be great simply by watching everyone else and learning through visual instead of being able to hear. Not bad advice, but it's not a superpower. Sorry, I know this is a superpower world, superheroes and aliens and magic and all that stuff, but she is just a person. She doesn't have any super serum, not that I know of. As far as I know, she's just a person. And I don't understand how this is believable, that a little girl who has one leg, who doesn't know anything in martial arts, she has a white belt on, which means that she's a beginner, and then she takes out a yellow belt at her first try. So once again, it's like this quick scene just to show us that this is why she's badass, is because she can learn by watching. Okay, so then we cut to her as an adult, and it's obviously it's Maya. We see the same actress from the previous episode, and she's fighting MMA style, and she's in a ring with a man with one leg. She has, her one leg, and she kicks the shit out of him. And it's just not believable. Disney, I don't know why you're trying to make this a thing. It's not real. And I understand the show is not based in reality in terms of, it's the MCU, but humans in this world have to adhere to biology, and her just being able to use her body without any problems, without any setbacks in regards to her being one-legged, and then on top of that, just grabbing a man, just tossing him down like a rag doll. It's just, I don't know. It's Disney's cheesy shit. So next we see her. She's on a motorcycle. She's sneaking into a garage. That when she gets there, obviously it's she hears a commotion going on. And then we see her sneaking around trying to figure out what's happening, and then we can see her looking through the windows, and it's the Ronin inside slicing up the tracksuit mafia. And her father is the leader of the tracksuit mafia, essentially. And she sees Ronan kill her father before she runs in. And that was actually a very touching scene. I thought it was a good scene between her father and her. But boy, they just love to kill fathers. they just do. It's like dads do not have a shelf life in Disney's world. Okay. So now we get back to Kate and Clint. They're in the tracksuit mafia warehouse. They're now tied up. It's just some more unfunny humor with Kate and the mafia, and the mafia guys are really stupid. They're cheesy, and I don't know. They're trying to make them up, like I said before. They're trying to make them up as like this comedy, like comic relief, and it's not working. So then Clint actually points something out to Kate, because Kate, even in what's going on right now, Kate is just she's acting like she's in total control, like she's kind of being overconfident and cocky as always. And when Maya comes in, and she speaks to Clint, and she points out the hearing aid, and you knew that was going to come up, and his hearing aid's starting to play a role, and they go back and forth via sign language, Clint and Maya, and then her cousin, I think it's her cousin named Kazi, he's kind of interpreting, so it's kind of a weird, like I don't know why they wanted Kazi to tell us what she was saying, even though just a second ago that she was sign languaging and there was subtitles. So I don't know, but anyways, she gets frustrated, Maya does, and Kate, kind of talks, like she does, all kind of goofy and thinking she's cocky, and Maya just grabs her by the throat, and Kazi pulls her off, and it actually puts Maya in check a little bit. Like, she realizes that this isn't a playing situation. Like, this is for real. These people could hurt you. And I thought it was good that Clint also pointed out, like, your overconfidence you need to stop it. This overconfidence is not going to help. And I thought it was good because, Kate has been just sort of off the chain, thinking this is just a big playground for her, and bragging about how awesome she is, and she's a two-time state champ in fencing, and she's the greatest archer in the world, and all this other shit. So it's kind of nice to see her get sort of snap back to reality. I mean, even if it's just a little bit. And then the fight scene kicks off. Clint gets loose, and I tell you what, I don't know who does the fight scene choreography, but man, they don't know what the hell they're doing. So Clint gets himself free. His hands are now taped behind his back, and then he cuts them free, and he tells Kate, get ready, cut the fear. We're going to get out of this, and you need to be focused. And so he gets out, takes off running, room full of men with guns, and he gets away, gets into, he parkours his way away from them, and then he gets to not far away, but there's like it's an old store. I think it was like a Toys R Us, an old Toys R Us store, I think. But so there's like aisles still set up, like a store, and he's bobbing and weaving through the aisles. The tracksuit mafia closes in on him, and Kazi stays behind with holding Kate at gunpoint. Maya is not in this scene for a second, but then we see the tracksuit mafia. They're looking for Clint. It's not a very big area, so it wouldn't take that long. But then Clint, he starts throwing a few of the stuffed animals at these guys that have guns, and apparently that stuffed animals are like the kryptonite for gun wielding mafia people. It was so stupid. And then, like always, he takes off. He gets above on the aisles, like the shelves. He starts running across. We already see that they have guns, and then they start swinging their arms at him, and they see a couple people that have like melee weapons, like bats and shit. But just shoot him, and they don't. Like I said, it's so stupid. I don't know. I wish they would just remove the guns from the mafias or the bad guys in general, because it would just solve that problem. But they don't. They show the men walking around with guns, and then when they clearly have the chance to shoot him, they don't. So he gets away, and it's really bad fight choreography again. And he actually there's a couple of, a little bit of martial arts going on with Maya. She steps in, and I just don't get it. It's like she's a one-legged woman, and she's kicking the shit out of Clint, just backing him up, like just walking through everything that he does. And he gets his hearing aid knocked out. She stomps on it, so now he's at a disadvantage, I guess. And then he's basically running from her the whole time. He's running away from her. And it's like this guy is an Avenger. He's a superhero. What the hell's going on? He's a trained CIA assassin type guy. Like he's an operator. He's not somebody that's going to run away. And so he runs through an office. He finds his bow. He finds his quiver. And even with that, she is just walking through like everything that he's throwing at her with like a Terminator. And I don't know, maybe, like I said, I don't know these characters, just a normie here. So maybe she has superpowers and I just don't know that yet. But as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason a one-legged woman should just be walking through a man's attacks just like nothing and shaking everything off. It was really hard to believe. And so she basically knocks him out of an office door. He jumps over a railing, fires an arrow, nicks Kazi in the back of the ear, and hits the tape right. And it's so funny, like it's a round arrow that shoots right through tape. And sure, it's just so funny how a hole that big through tape this wide just boom, sets her free. So whatever, Hollywood. And then it gets really dumb because then you have the tracksuit mafia who are coming after Kate. And it's so funny, Kazi's standing there with a gun. She's at gunpoint. Kazi's right next to her. And the arrow nicks his ear, and then the arrow goes through the tape, and then she immediately just disarms him and kicks the shit out of him with ease. Like it was so stupid. And then some really bad sliding. She slides across the ground, grabs a hold of a pole, and still has the momentum to go all the way around the pole on the floor and completely take the legs out of a guy. Just dumb. It's just so terrible. The fight scenes are awful. And they end up getting away. Clint picks up a little piece of like what's left of his hearing aid on the way out. And then they get outside. They go to get into a car. And it's car scene and a car chase scene. And it's just funny because as soon as they get in the car, he's trying to hotwire it. And so now we have this sort of comedy buddy cop moments where he can't hear her because of his hearing aid. And so they do a lot of the repeating where she's saying something, he's saying something. And there was a couple of lines that kind of landed. It wasn't terrible, but it sort of pushed the story into she now has to be the one with the bow and arrow, which he's Hawkeye. This is a Hawkeye show. What the hell? But, no, he's going to be driving. She's going to be doing the shooting, whatever. And it was funny because we see the tracksuit mafia guys, the first guys that run out of the building while they're boosting the car. The car hasn't even started yet. And two of the guys get to the actual vehicles. One is on the hood. They have guns. And then this guy is hitting it with a bat, the window. And no one shoots a gun until they get the car started and drive away. And as soon as the car starts driving away, then the guns start coming out and the bullets start flying. Very convenient. They kind of do a cool camera. It's like the camera is like stationary inside of the car and it just rotates 360 around. So I could see what they were trying to do. It came off pretty cool. It wasn't like awesome or anything, but it just wasn't that great in terms of, adding to the moment. A lot of CGI car stuff. So that was kind of easy to see. And the car chase. So during this whole scene, she's firing arrows out of his quiver. He's trying to manage like what arrow she's going to shoot. And he's telling her what they do. And I swear there was a few times where she's saying stuff to him that he could actually hear, but whatever. And then it ends on a bridge and we see this really, so there's two arrows, the cars have crashed and now the mafia is like driving towards them and Maya has wrecked her car. And so they're all like walking towards Clint. Clint runs back to get an arrow out of the car that he shot when he shot at Maya's car. And he goes to get the arrow and he says, cover me. And all she does, Kate has an arrow and she just says, you have no idea what this arrow will do. So she screams at them and then they all just freeze. Maya tells them all to stay still. It was just ridiculous. It's like it's one arrow, but whatever. Okay, whatever. Hollywood. It's superhero movie shit. And then he gets the arrow, runs back, and then he fires. So he their plan is he's going to fire this arrow, and this actually happens. I'm sorry, I'm a little out of sequence here. He does fire this Pym arrow. We see the tip of it has like a really big arrowhead on it, and it says Pym Technologies from Hank Pym, which is from Ant-Man, and she fires an arrow way up in the air, and then he hits it while it's coming down, and it turns her arrow into the Pym arrow turns her arrow into this gigantic arrow that's like 10 stories tall, and boom, smashes the cars, and that's what causes the crash. That was cheesy. I just thought it was so ridiculous. It was just cheesy. It was like, okay, whatever. And then when he so back to what I was saying before, when he goes to get the arrow out of Maya's car, she fires the arrow that she's keeping the tracksuit mafia at bay with, that she's holding at them. And again, she's like 100 yards away, but whatever. And then she fires it, and it literally just bounces off the guy. So I don't know what kind of arrow this was, but it was a completely pointless foam arrow. And then they do a nice little slow jump off the bridge, and he uses the arrow that he got out of the car to make a grapple. And then they land on a train that just happens to be passing by, and then that's it. So all in all, it was that I think the Marvel movies have always done really good at making the action sequences very fluid. And again, you have to there's a suspension of disbelief because you're talking about superheroes, but this was just kind of it just was lame. Like I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any tension. It was just like, yay, let's watch the stuff blow up and the cars crash. So, and maybe you enjoy that. Maybe it was fun for you, but I just thought I didn't think it was a good scene. So they're on the train, and of course, Clint has to let her know that she was right. She is one of the world's greatest archers. So there you go, validation. So it's like her right there, her overconfidence about how when he called her out before, which I really loved the fact that when he asked her, "Are you one of the people that call yourself the greatest archer in the world?" and she says yes. I thought that was a very good, like kind of rein her in just a little bit, because she's a kid, way overconfident, and she thinks really highly of herself. And now it just kind of like invalidates that whole thing. Now it's like, no, actually you're right. You are the greatest. So, or one of the greatest. But so they head back to Kate's Auntie's apartment, and this was like a really good scene. I actually like this scene a lot. The phone rings, and it's Clint's son, and he doesn't have his hearing aid fixed yet, and Kate sees and hears the phone, so she starts writing notes about what his son is saying, because it's his youngest son, and Clint can't hear what he's saying, so she's relaying to him, without letting his son know that she's in the room. And I thought it was a good scene. It kind of gave a little revelation to, and she got to see into his life a little bit, and he does talk about his family and getting back to his family. So I like this scene. I thought it was good. Let's see, where were we? So then we cut back to the mafia hideout. It's Maya and Kazi talking, and he references he references another person. So there's a boss that they're working for that has not been revealed yet, and he says he references he. And I think he calls him his uncle, but I don't remember. Anyways, Maya is telling Kazi that, we're going after this Ronin guy, and he's saying this is going to be dangerous. We're attracting too much attention. We're supposed to keep a low profile. And then she says, remember, just basically remember who's in charge. And he says you, and that kind of ends it. But I actually like that scene because it kind of gave gave an insight into them and like what the dynamic and what the structure is in between their organization. So I kind of like that stuff. Let's see. So then we cut back to Clint and Kate, and they're sitting in front of a shop, and the world's greatest hearing aid repair woman shows up. she just literally says, so some woman just shows up and she's like, hey, can you fix this? Kate does. I think Kate may know her. I don't know. And then she's like, give me 5 minutes, and boom, his hearing aid's fixed. So another amazing person doing unbelievable shit. And so then we cut to them having breakfast. And this to me, so they're talking. Kate starts talking about his brand again. She draws a little costume for him on a piece of paper out of crayon. It was kind of a little funny, whatever. I think, and I'm not sure, I think the costume that she drew is what he looked like in the comics, because I think he does have a mask, and he has like a mask over his eyes that looks like wings, I think. I'm not sure, but he kind of laughs it off. So I kind of felt like they were just, it was almost like we're making fun of what came before us again, and I don't like that shit. I just don't. If that's true, I'm pretty sure that's what it is, and if it is, it's like, okay, you know, the past is so hysterical, and we're so much better. But regardless, he explains why he doesn't want a costume, and I thought it was a really good scene between Clint and Kate, because he is actually letting her know, like, this is real. I am trained to be in the shadows. I'm not trained to be out in the open and building my brand. Like, I spent my life being trained on how to blend in, and wearing a costume is not a good idea. And I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a really good scene. And so far in this show, this is the best scene between these two so far. And I really liked the whole scene. Even Kate, I thought Kate was, you know, it was good, even though she was kind of being Kate with her brand thing, whatever. But it ended up being a good shot. So I liked it. And then we just kind of have a couple of cuts. Kate and Clint are walking through the park. They're in a cab or whatever, and they're talking. Basically, they're kind of unraveling a little bit of what they've seen so far in terms of Jack being involved with his uncle's murder, and Clint's filling her in on who the tracksuit mafia is and where they came from. And I thought it was a nice scene. I thought a nice little not a montage, but it was a few different scenes where they kind of cut, and the conversation just continues, and they're filling us in, but they're also figuring it out. So it felt pretty organic. I liked it. And then we go to, they need to break into Eleanor's mom's laptop. So they head to Eleanor's apartment, and they find out that Kazi's name is listed as a Sloan employee. And I guess Sloan is a corporation that's ran by Jack, I believe. So, you know, they're starting to connect some pieces, and I kind of like that. I'm liking that they're actually doing some legwork, and things aren't just falling in everyone's lap. So props to the show for that. And then Clint hears a noise, and he starts heading, which is weird, right? He hears a noise. She's on the computer. He's standing right next to her, but he's the one with the hearing problem, but he hears a noise in the other room. And she doesn't even flinch. He just sits there. She just keeps on the computer. And then so he walks into the other room, and then right as he makes it into like the dining area, a sword comes up to his throat, and the camera pans over, and it's Jack. And he says, "Don't move." And then roll credits. That was it. So it was a short episode. It had some of the better moments of the show so far, which the bar to me is pretty damn low. But I did like this episode more than either one of the one or two. So episode 3 was so far has been the best episode for me. But Jesus, the fight scenes are awful. They're terrible. They're not even that fun, really. And the explanation of why people, humans, regular normal human beings, are able to do what they can do. And I'll even go as far as to say, like, I understand Hawkeye is, you know, he's awesome with the bow and arrow. Even some of the stuff that he's doing, it's like, okay. I mean, it's not, it's just, I just feel like they're Clint has established as a superhero. So that's, I mean, some of it I can forgive, but I still, some of the arrow stuff that he does, I'm like, whatever. But just the fighting stuff with Maya and her super strength and super fighting abilities to just beat the shit out of Clint. I just thought it was silly. I just think it's just not believable, and I don't like it. But regardless, I'm going to keep watching. So I'm going to cut it there. If you liked the video, click the subscribe button. If you thought it was worth your time and you think somebody else might like it, share it with somebody. If you think it's worth a thumbs up, I would appreciate it. And if you have any questions, comments, complaints, you know my email. Send me a message. Other than that, you have a great night. I'll talk to you later. Bye.